The materials and the anticipatory set are the next section of the lesson template that we're going to go over. The materials are the stuff that you need to present the lesson, and the anticipatory set is how you get them excited, how you get them going, and how you find out what they already know. Here's what we've covered so far: the heading, the learning target, and the learning objectives. If you weren't here on Monday, please make sure you pause here and take these notes in the lesson template that I've attached to the Edmodo post. It's important that you have these notes for the upcoming lessons in which we'll be covering the rest of the material that's on the lesson plan. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is take the new notes for materials. In a moment, you'll see a slide to the right that will prompt you to pause and fill out your notes template. If you don't have one, you can always download the one I've attached to Edmodo, print it out, and fill in the notes as you see them here. The materials are all of the stuff you need to present a lesson. And by stuff, I mean things like the worksheets, the tools and supplies, the technology, the books and the textbooks that you need to present the lesson to your students. Let's go over a few examples of what I mean. So the first example is something called a graphic organizer. And a graphic organizer is basically just a document that helps students lay out the information about a particular subject or content or concept in a way that's easy for them to see and understand. For this particular one that you're looking at now, it's about a particular word. So it gives the word, it's a space for the definition, a space for, I can highlight these for you. So we're talking about the word. It'll give a space for the definition, a space for them to draw a picture. Here they can use the word in a sentence. They can use the synonym of the word, an antonym of the word. They can come up with suffixes if it applies, the parts of speech, and any other related words that will help them understand this main concept here. You can also have graphic organizers that might give more understanding of formulas or things. Here, what we have is a worksheet or a graphic organizer that puts the words and ideas in more of a pictorial or visual format. Graphic organizers are really about visuals and how we can turn information into a picture format. Think back to when I gave you out those graphic organizers for us to talk about learning standards. That was a graphic organizer. It was information that I was giving you, but it was being done in a picture or visual way to help you understand the connections between the words and the concepts of the words. Here's one more. This is just breaking down classifying quadrilaterals, talking about squares, rhombuses, rectangles, and trapezoids. Here, this graphic organizer is talking about the the differences and similarities between all of the different types of shapes. So another example of a material is a worksheet. Graphic organizers could be considered worksheets, but they're a more specific variety of materials for the classroom. So worksheets might include problems that the students need to solve. They could include questions that they need to answer. They could include fill in the blanks. There's pretty much endless options for the types of worksheets that a student could be working on. Particularly for elementary students, the worksheets should be creative in their format. You'll notice that a lot of the ones that your teachers use are your teachers in the elementary schools. They're much more creative. They have a lot of visuals on them, and it really helps to get the students understanding, well, what the topic is that they are talking about. Tools are all the stuff that you need in order to present the lesson or for the students to work with in order for them to really understand what's going on or them to create something. The tools you see here are obviously for creating a more artistic project, but tools could be all sorts of things such as calculators, math manipulatives. Maybe you're looking at a map. Maybe you're looking at a particular book. These are all the materials that you need in order to complete this lesson. Another example might be something like a PowerPoint that's a technology material. So here it's just 2 slides from this particular PowerPoint. If you saw Inception, you'll get the little quote at the bottom there. It's the PowerPoint within the PowerPoint. Just another way that you can use materials within your lesson plan. So let's try it. What materials do you think you would need for a lesson in which you are teaching first grade students how to write a story? Think of everything that you need in order to present that lesson. Go ahead and try this now. Okay, now that we've gotten down what the materials are for the lesson, we're going to talk about the anticipatory set. Take a moment and complete the notes on your lesson plan template so that you can understand and refer back to them later on. The anticipatory set is the hook, the do now, and how you activate prior knowledge for your students. The hook gets them ready to learn. The do now brings to mind what they already know. And the activating of prior knowledge establishes what they are doing during the lesson. So the hook gets students excited about the lesson. It grabs their attention and it sets the tone for the lesson. Some examples of hooks might include playing music. If you're talking about family, play We Are Family. Family by Sister Sledge. If you are talking about book genres, maybe you can play a short video that's funny and does it in an interesting way. If you are talking about the scientific method, you can ask an open-ended, debatable question. Ask students why the hypothesis, the guess about the experiment, is so important, and then have them take sides, have them debate about it. This really gets them excited about the topic. The more they have to think about what it is you're looking for them to do, the more inquisitive or curious they're going to be about the lesson. Let's try it. Write a hook for a math lesson about adding whole numbers. Let's talk about the do now. The do now is an activity or task for students to complete at the beginning of the lesson. It can be in correlation with the hook as well as activating prior knowledge. The do now should be either in preparation for the current lesson or in review of a previous lesson. Some examples of do nows include a 1-minute speed write. Have them write everything that they know about a topic in a given amount of time. The mystery object do now. Have students take turns guessing what the object is and what it has to do with today's lesson. And then you can do a thought-provoking prompt too. Give students a statement or question and have them write their thoughts or questions about it. Remember, the do now is supposed to be about the lesson that you're teaching today or checking in if they remember about the lesson that you taught yesterday. Let's try it. Write a do now for a language arts lesson about writing a descriptive setting. The last piece of the anticipatory set is activating prior knowledge. This is perhaps the most important part of the anticipatory set. You must determine what students already know about a subject before you can add anything new to it. Your goal is to connect the new concepts being taught to concepts or ideas that they already thoroughly understand. This is why the sequence of learning is so important. You can't teach a student how to run until they thoroughly know how to walk. The same is true for any other concepts. Kids won't be able to divide fractions until they're able to actually divide whole numbers. Let's talk about some examples. If you're teaching a lesson on triangles, the beginning of the lesson should address what the students already know about triangles, as well as what they know about other shapes. So they might talk about what the characteristics of a rectangle are. What are the characteristics of a circle? Have them talk about the attributes of each, that one is round, one has corners, one doesn't have corners. This will help them address the new material about triangles. Perhaps we're teaching a lesson on adding unlike fractions. Students need to already be able to add like fractions and explain how it works. To activate prior knowledge, perhaps you give them a do now activity that practices and brings this idea to the front of their minds, meaning have them do a quick entrance ticket to check and make sure that they remember how to add like fractions before you teach them any new information about adding unlike fractions. One last example here. Suppose you're teaching a lesson on character traits. Have the students describe the character in their favorite book before you really go about explaining what character traits are. All of these lessons are going to have to be built upon, and the concepts that we're generally talking about here are going to take probably many lessons for them to really understand. So each day, you're really going to activate what they already know about a particular topic or subject in order for you to build upon that idea. Let's try it. How would you determine what the students know and/or prepare them to learn about natural disasters in science class? Great. Now that we've gone over materials in the anticipatory set, you're ready for class. When you come in, we're just going to work on activities instead of having to take notes. Thanks, guys, and have a great week.